Breaking news, guys. Tom Girardi could potentially be arrested and is looking at up to a lifetime in prison. Obviously, we know his lifetime is already about to be cut short, but let's break down the all-new indictments, the charges, the potential arrest, all of it. I hope you have your pen and notepad handy. Let's dive into it. Oh, hi, it's me, Zack Peter, pop culture junkie, reality TV insider, published author, and host of the No Filter with Zack Peter podcast. Here I'll bring you all the latest news on the Real Housewives, deep dives into celebrity legal scandals, and unfiltered convos with your favorite stars. I've got you covered. And yes, I always keep receipts. So be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for all the latest tea. Now, let's dive in. All right, welcome on in, guys. I hope you are having a great start to your Wednesday. Justice is about to be served with some hot tea. I love that Fluffy Pink Chaos has your drink ready. It's a little too early. It's 12:36 here, so I have some water. It's not some vodka, it's some water. But let's get into it. Tom Girardi is currently facing a lifetime in prison. He's officially been indicted on charges in Los Angeles, which is where I'm at, and in Chicago. He's facing 8 counts of wire fraud charges in Chicago, 5 counts of wire fraud charges in Los Angeles, and an additional 4 counts of criminal contempt charges for trying to conceal the fraud. All these charges alongside his son-in-law, David Lira, who was an attorney at Girardi Keese. David Lira is also currently married to Tom's daughter, Jacqueline. I know initially some people were like, oh my God, does this mean that this was Erika's son that was brought into it? No, guys, son-in-law and stepson are 2 very different things. So Erika Girardi and her son, Tommy, have not been brought into anything. They have not been charged with anything. It is Tom's son-in-law, David Lira, who is a practicing attorney and I believe at some point a partner at Girardi Keese, and the controller / chief financial officer, the CFO, Christopher Kamon. Remember, he was arrested a few months back. They caught him trying to flee to the Bahamas, or they accused him of trying to flee to the Bahamas because he suddenly was selling all his properties here in the United States and then bought a property out in the Bahamas, and he was ready to go live over there. And he was like, no, I wasn't trying to flee the country. What are you talking about? And they're like, you were selling all your properties here and moving to the Bahamas. Sounds like you were trying to flee. And then he came back to visit his family, seemed to be wrapping up some affairs, and that's where they caught him and arrested him, and he's been in custody. So now official charges have been brought. So that's what an indictment is. An indictment is, these are the charges. This is, what we've decided. You have what crimes you have allegedly committed. It is all still alleged because now it will have to move forward in a trial where the government will have to provide the burden of proof and prove that these 3 men actually did commit these crimes. So they have not officially been arrested. They're not going to be sentenced to prison just yet. We do have a trial that will be coming forth soon. They're also said to owe $3 million in Chicago. That is in relation to the Lion Air plane crash clients that they were representing. I believe there were 8 of those clients. Originally, we saw Jay Edelson from Edelson PC. He was suing for, what was it, 2-ish million. Now the courts have decided that it's 3 million, and then it's actually 15 million that they're trying to slap them with here in Los Angeles. So they have 15 million plus 3 million. That's a total of 18 million that they'll likely have to pay back. Tom has a hearing that's coming up later this month here in Los Angeles in February. So there is when the feds said that they plan to arrest Tom Girardi and take him into custody. Now, he is currently under conservatorship, so when it comes to the actual arrest, we'll see what the courts decide. He's currently under conservatorship that his brother manages after being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He currently lives in an assisted care facility, so they're not going to go knocking on the door at the assisted care facility and say, hey, we're looking for Tom Girardi. They're going to allow the courts to decide whether or not Tom can serve time in prison. It's very likely that if he does end up having to serve time in prison and they do end up taking him into custody, he'll probably end up in a facility similar to Julie Chrisley. So she's in Lexington, Kentucky, and that's a special prison that like treats people with different mental and physical disabilities, mental and physical challenges, or just health issues. That's what that prison is specialized for. I'm not saying that that's where Tom's going to be taken. I'm just saying he'll likely be placed in a prison that can accommodate people with Alzheimer's and dementia. But again, the feds say that he was competent enough to commit the crimes, therefore he should be fine to serve his time, but they're going to leave it up to the court. So the courts will decide whether or not he can be arrested throughout the trial, held in custody, and what prison time will look like for him. Do they have all the money to pay back? I mean, I guess that's what we're going to find out, right? Does he for sure have Alzheimer's? I mean, we don't know for sure, right? We just know that there was a doctor that I believe reviewed his case and determined that he has Alzheimer's and dementia, both of them together. So yeah, we really don't know, Karen. We really don't know. But yeah. Oh my God, I love when you say Julie. Yes, Daisy. Julie. She's currently serving her time in prison. So I guess she's serving her time at the Lexington facility because she was previously diagnosed with breast cancer. So people are like, oh my God, she needs care. She needs treatment. I'm like, okay, good for her. I'm glad she found a facility that was able to facilitate that for her. Regardless, it looked like she was going to have to turn herself over in Marianna, Florida. So I heard Julie is having a good time there. Is she? I don't know about that. Hi, everyone. Don't forget to hit the like button. Yes, thank you, artists. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. 8 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts in Chicago, 5 counts in Los Angeles, 4 counts of criminal contempt. If convicted, they're looking at a possible 20 years for each wire fraud charge. They're currently at 13 wire fraud charges. So that doesn't even include the contempt charges. As far as I'm aware, contempt charges don't have like a specified amount of time. It's usually determined by the actual judge. So 13 times 20, that's if they get the full. They're likely not going to get the full, but even so, even if they get a few, a few years per charge, 13 charges of wire fraud is a lot. Jen Shah was convicted on 1 charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and she's serving 6.5 years. So think of this as 13 Jen Shah issues. Like that's 13 Jen Shah cases is what we're looking at, not including the 4 counts of criminal contempt. I'm pretty sure they will be found guilty of, or I'm confident that should the government be able to provide the burden of proof and be able to put out their case beyond a reasonable doubt, that they will definitely move forward with the 4 counts unless they try to cut a deal like Jen Shah, right? The Chrisleys had to serve a lot of time because they went to trial and they lost. Jen Shah ended up cutting a deal. So she ended up, getting a lot less time. OMG, Trish Crompton finally look at that, Trish. Finally, an actual trial that makes sense versus blaming the easy target. Yes, thank you. Versus blaming the easy target, which would be Erika Jayne. And people keep asking, what's going on with Erika Jayne? What's going on with her son? What's happening there? Literally nothing. That's why there hasn't been much to report on it. Literally nothing. Now, the IRS has not yet gotten involved fully. I believe that there are still ongoing investigations into Girardi, Keese, and everybody involved. So there is a good chance that the IRS is going to come down, and they're going to come down hard. We know they've already started to come at Erika Girardi. So we'll see what happens there. Worst case scenario, she's going to be slapped with a major tax bill, and we'll see where that goes. Has anyone know if Tom was arrested physically? No, Krista Marie, he will not be arrested. The Fed said that this will not, they're waiting for the courts to decide whether or not he can be arrested because he is under conservatorship. I would imagine his brother is going to fight that very hard. His brother's the one that oversees the conservatorship. His brother's going to fight that they don't have the care to take care of him. They don't, have the proper facility available. They're going to try to throw everything, on the table, just like Jen Shah. Remember, she helped the homeless and the toothless, and she's, a woman, and she's part of a marginalized community, and she defends on the marginalized community, and she drives all the elderly to their doctor's appointments in between conning them. So, like, at this point, they're probably going to try to fight it as hard as they possibly can. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. So can he get house arrest? I mean, possibly, but it's very unlikely that he'll get house arrest. I mean, these are some big charges. Again, Jen Shah was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison with a plea deal. Okay. She decided to plead guilty. So with a deal, she got 6.5 years on one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Tom Girardi and David Lira and Christopher Kamon are facing what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13? 13 charges of wire fraud. Not conspiracy to commit wire fraud like Jen Shah, but actual wire fraud on top of criminal contempt charges. So it's not looking good for them at all. Brian Scott Patterson, welcome on in, Brian. Brian has joined the Zack Pack, and he is an official member on the YouTube. Welcome on in, Brian. Welcome on in. Hey, Zack, what is /are your favorite lemonade combos? Lemonade and vodka. Throw some vodka in there, and I'm good. Is Tom's brother an attorney? I don't believe Tom's brother is an attorney. Yeah, thank you, Zack. This is crazy. But yeah, so if they do decide to arrest Tom, the feds have expressed that that won't happen until his upcoming hearing, which is happening later this month. I don't know the exact date, but tis what it is. Okay, so I've given you the breakdown, the recap, all of that. Let's go through some of the documents that have been released. Law 360 did a good article. Brandon Lowry, who is incredible. I love Brandon Lowry. He always has done such great reporting on the Girardi case. So he published an article earlier today. Let's kind of skim through this. That way you get a full breakdown from like a real reporter. Okay, so Brandon writes, federal grand juries in Los Angeles and Chicago have indicted Girardi Keese founder Tom Girardi on 13 counts of wire fraud and 4 counts of criminal contempt stemming from his firm's theft of millions from its clients, prosecutors announced on Wednesday, saying that their criminal investigation into the once legendary law firm is not yet finished. So there is a lot more that's going to be coming. Girardi, who's 83, his son-in-law, former Girardi Keese attorney David Lira, and the firm's one-time CFO, Christopher Kamon, were each indicted on 8 counts of wire fraud and 4 counts of contempt in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, where the firm misappropriated money from a settlement and negotiated for families of plane crash victims. This is the Lion Air case. So this is also the case. We have Jay Edelson, who's suing for it's been so long since I've looked at that case, but he's suing for, I believe, like what, $50 million. He's suing for lots of money. His clients were originally, he said, entitled to about $2 million. Now, according to the Northern District of Illinois, they're claiming that it's $3 million that Tom Girardi owes. So, which will be interesting to see if Jay Edelson continues to pursue that lawsuit now, because I mean, again, this is, as I've talked to him before, and he says that, when these things come out, it really just means, hey, Tom, you got to pay up. Whether or not Tom will actually pay up, that is yet to be determined. So I would imagine that Jay Edelson will continue to pursue his lawsuit as long as he possibly can. His clients, the plane crash victims, or the families of the plane crash victims, rather, they've already gotten their money through Jay Edelson's insurance. His firm's insurance has paid out those families. So they've gotten their money already. Jay Edelson's lawsuit is to now get reimbursed for paying them, and he's tackling punitive damages and all sorts of other damages, trying to get as much money as he can. He's likely not going to get that full $50 million, but he's going to try. Okay, the article continues. Girardi was charged with an additional 5 counts of wire fraud in Los Angeles. Federal authorities there alleged he and Kamon lied to clients and used their lack of knowledge of the legal system to steal from them. Now, as far as Emily D. Baker said, this does not include the $10 million that Kamon stole from Girardi Keese. There was an additional side deal. He was pocketing some of the money himself, and he got up to $10 million that he stole from the firm outside of what he and Tom were stealing from the clients. So that is separate, and I imagine Kamon's going to have to continue to face those charges moving forward down the line. Mr. Girardi and Mr. Kamon stand accused of engaging in a widespread scheme to steal from their clients and lie to them to cover up the fraud, said Martin Estrada, the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California. In doing so, they allegedly preyed on the very people who trusted and relied upon them the most, their clients. Girardi has practiced law in California since 1965 and went on to found the once bustling plaintiffs firm Girardi Keese in Los Angeles, where he would win billions of dollars in settlements and judgments over the course of his career. He skyrocketed to national fame. Okay, so then it just kind of gets into his background. Back in December 2020, a federal judge in Chicago found that Girardi had stolen $2 million from settlements that he negotiated from orphans and widows of the plane crash. Okay, we get into that. David Lira left the firm in 2020. So right when everything started to crumble, that's when everybody started to run. That's when David Lira left. He's been working for Engstrom, Linscope, and Lack LLP in Los Angeles. Kamon was arrested in November, charged in California with wire fraud, and accused of running a $10 million side fraud on the firm behind Tom Girardi's back. Girardi, Keese, and its founders are now in bankruptcy, and the firm is believed to have misappropriated more than $100 million from clients over several decades. The firm may owe more than $500 million to various creditors, according to the bankruptcy court filing. The story will be updated. All right, so follow Brandon Lowry and Law 360 because they've been the ones that have really been reporting on it, and I like to get a lot of my info from them. I feel bad for the employees who were actually honest and good folks. This is going to follow them. I don't know if they were so honest and good folks. They had a pretty tight, lean team at Girardi Keese, so I would imagine they kind of knew what was going on. Think about it. His front desk secretary, who was allegedly the one that was writing his emails for him, you're going to tell me she had no clue what was going on? Come on. Let's not be naive. Like, I'm sure there were some employees that came in and probably didn't have a full idea of what was going on or a full picture, but someone knew something. And that's why they're all pleading the fifth and nobody wants to talk about it, right? Who thinks there's hidden money? Possibly. I mean, well, look at Kamon. Kamon had all of these properties that he had here in the US. And the second he needed a run, he started selling off all of those properties to liquidate those assets so that he can take his money and head over to the Bahamas. So these are smart and savvy men, and they finally got caught. I'm kind of tired of all these people getting on TV and thinking that they can get away with this shit. It's exhausting. Does Bravo not do background checks on people? Well, yes, but like, what was a background check going to tell them? Also, Tom Girardi didn't sign. Tom Girardi, David Lira, and Christopher Kamon, the men that were committing these crimes and that have now been indicted for these charges, they weren't on the reality show. They didn't sign up to share their lives. Erika Jayne signed up for this reality show, and I don't think she thought that any of this was going to come down. I think she really believed that her husband was rich and they were living their best life. I don't think she had any reason to believe that he was actually doing the insidious things that he was doing, because this started way, way before Erika. And what would a background check tell him? If they do a background check, all a background check does, especially now, I mean, she joined the show, back in 2015? So that's 8 years ago at this point? What would a background check actually reveal? If they were arrested, Erika's never been arrested. They're not going to reveal every little thing. A background check shows if you have a criminal record. Exactly. And at this point, nobody has had a criminal record up until now. These charges are now just starting to come forward. So again, everyone wants to say Bravo needs to do background checks on their talent. Bravo needs to do background checks. All they can really do is and see if you've been arrested, investigate those arrests, see if you've ever been charged with anything, see if there have ever been any like domestic violence disputes against you, convictions against you. They can possibly look into your credit. I don't know what that has to really do with anything. I would assume they might check into that to make sure you're actually wealthy. And then they can check your social media. And if you don't have any problematic social media, that's when everyone keeps saying background checks. Bravo doesn't, like Jeff Lewis, when he was telling Andy he doesn't do good enough background checks live on Watch What Happens Live. I was like, what does that actually mean? They do their background checks, but there's not much you're able to find if people haven't actually done anything wrong. Trish makes a really good point here in the live chat. She says he was on the cover of every law magazine, had friends at the LAPD. There's your background check. Exactly. Friends at the LAPD. He was friends with Governor, what's his name? Oh my God, why am I blanking? The corrupt California governor. What's his name? Gavin Newsom. I fucking hate Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom was on Watch What Happens Live saying that, you know, he loved Erika Jayne and she was his favorite housewife because her husband donated so much money to his campaigns. So when you have the governor of California in your pocket, you have the California State Bar that you're going on vacations with, you're on the cover of all of these magazines, you're receiving all of these awards, all of these judges love you, one of them that's banging you and you bought a beach house for, what background check were you going to find that's actually going to do anything with that? Yes, Newsom. I heard Tom Girardi still gets his D sucked at the roundup. Maybe Leslie, maybe. I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure he's got the nurses at the assisted care facility wrapped around his finger. He's like, listen, pop me a little Viagra and I'm good. We're good. Okay. I do have the actual court documents. I have the LA the LA indictment, the counts of an indictment. We can read through those if you want. Okay, so introductory allegations. At times relevant to this indictment, defendants Tom Girardi, who is a resident of Pasadena, California. Defendant Girardi was an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of California. He was 100% the owner and managing partner of Girardi Keese. He was a signatory on and exercised the controlling in the following bank accounts. He controlled the client trust account. So this just kind of goes into the backgrounds where the actual allegations. Okay, the scheme to the fraud, beginning at least as early. Okay, so this is what the district attorney here in California filed for these 5 counts of conspiracy, or not conspiracy, charges on wire fraud. Because they're not conspiracy to commit wire fraud. I'm so used to saying that because Jen Shah was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Okay, so the district attorney claims beginning at least as early as in or around 2010 and continuing through to at least December 2020 in Los Angeles County within the Central District of California and elsewhere, defendants Girardi and Kamon, so that's the CFO, together with others and unknown to the grand jury, knowingly with the intent to defraud, devised, participated in, and executed a scheme to defraud victims, clients, to whom defendant Girardi and Girardi Keese had agreed to provide legal services to, including but not limited to clients 1 through 5. As to material matters and to obtain money and property from such victim clients by means, materials, false and fraudulent pretenses, representation and promises, and the concealment of material facts, including material facts that the defendant Girardi had a duty to disclose. The fraudulent scheme operated in substance in the following manner. Okay, so now the district attorney is explaining to us how the fraud went down. Girardi would negotiate a settlement on behalf of the client that would require the payment of funds to the client. Girardi would misrepresent, conceal, and falsely describe to the client the true terms of the settlement and or the disposition of the settlement proceeds. Okay, so he was lying about either receiving the funds or lying about how much he was receiving. Defendants Girardi and Kamon would cause the settlement proceeds to be deposited in or transferred to attorney trust accounts, including the Torrey Pines IOTA account and the Nano Bank IOTA account that defendants Girardi and Kamon controlled. Defendants Girardi and Kamon would therefore embezzle and misappropriate settlement funds from the Torrey Pines IOTA account and the Nano Bank IOTA account belonging to Girardi Keese clients for improper purposes. Improper purposes included, among other things, paying for Girardi Keese clients whose own settlement funds previously had been misappropriated, right? So robbing Peter to pay Paul. Paying Girardi Keese's payroll. So a lot of the employees were paid with some of these misappropriated funds, which is interesting because a lot of people are going after Erika because she technically benefited from all of this, right? So this shows that all of the employees that worked at Girardi Keese were paid for at least at some point, or maybe if not in whole, in some fraction, their payroll fees were paid for with misappropriated client funds, which means everybody that received a paycheck from Girardi Keese, I would assume, would now be pulled into question, and some of their wages could now be garnished and taken back because that technically wasn't Girardi Keese's money to give them to pay the staff. They also claim that they were paying for Girardi Keese's expenses, including its American Express card bills, encompassing charges for defendants Girardi and Kamon's personal expenses. So this is where Erika Jayne or Erika Girardi gets brought in because they were paying for her Amex bill with Girardi Keese funds. And now we know that they were mixing their regular funds with client funds, and it was getting all sorts of messy. They were just throwing all the money in a big pot, and, we're like, fuck it. As part of their scheme to conceal the embezzlement and misappropriations from client funds, defendants would send and cause to be sent lulling communications to the clients that, among other things, falsely denied that the settlement proceeds had been paid and falsely claimed that Girardi Keese could not pay the settlement proceeds to clients until certain purported requirements had been met, such as addressing supposed tax obligations, obtaining supposed necessary authorizations from judges, and satisfying medical liens and other debts. So when they had the money, they would tell the clients, oh, hold on, the money's coming in. And they would either tell them that the money hadn't come in yet when it actually had, or that there was something holding up them paying them, right? Oh, we need to make sure you pay your taxes, or we need to make sure we do this, or do you want to invest? As further part of their scheme and to conceal the embezzlements and misappropriation from the victims' clients, defendants Girardi and Kamon would also send and cause to be sent lulling payments to the clients, falsely representing and maintaining the false pretense that such payments were advances on the purported yet to be received settlement proceeds, or interest payments on the settlement proceeds that purportedly could not be paid to the client until the fabricated requirements were satisfied. So they would give them little bits of money, right? Like, okay, we're going to take a piece of our own money from our own pockets and give you an advance without disclosing to the clients that this wasn't from their own pockets. This was their client settlement money that they were spending, and they were just giving them a little chunk of it to keep them satisfied for now. This, I believe, is what was going on with the Ruy Gomez family. Then they get into the specific clients. They have 5 different clients that are outlined in this. One of them, client number 1, in or about January 2013, defendant Girardi negotiated a settlement of the lawsuit related to client 1's injuries without obtaining prior approval of the settlement terms from client 1. The terms of the settlement provided the client would be paid $53,000 to release all of the client 1's claims pursuant to client 1's retainer agreement with Girardi Keese. Girardi Keese's attorney's fees in the amount of 25% of the settlement amount, costs, and expenses were to be deducted from the settlement proceeds and paid to Girardi Keese. Wow. So usually they were taking 40%, right? In this specific case in 2013, they agreed to only take 20% of the settlement amount. Interesting, because that is below industry standard, especially here in Los Angeles. Very interesting. On or about January 10, 2013, defendant Girardi told client 1 that the case had settled. Defendant Girardi had not previously informed client 1 of the settlement or obtained client 1's consent to the terms of the settlement and concealed the true terms of the settlement from client 1. Defendant Girardi falsely represented to client 1 that the total settlement would be approximately $7,250,000 and concealed from client 1 that the true amount of the settlement was $53,000. Wow. So here they're saying that Tom won a $7.2 million settlement, but told the client that the settlement was only $53,000. That is wild. That's like not even trimming a little bit off. That's like insane. Insane. Or wait, no, it says he falsely represented to the client that the total amount was approximately 7.2 and concealed that the true amount was 53,000. Okay, so they're claiming that Tom told the client that the settlement was 7.2 thousand when in actuality he only won 53,000. 7.2 million and he actually got 53,000. I think I got that backwards. Defendant Girardi further falsely represented that the settlement would be structured as an annuity to be paid to the client for the rest of the client's life when, as defendant Girardi then knew, the settlement terms did not require the creation of an annuity or any other structured settlement, and the defendant Girardi had not obtained client 1's consent to structure the settlement this way. Interesting. So he's telling the client, you'll get annual payments. So we'll have the full amount in your trust account and we'll pay you this much amount of money every year. And the client had no idea that they had to give consent for that they had the option to take all their money up front. On or about January 24th, 2013, over half of client one's settlement money, namely $28,000, was transferred. Oh, wait, shit. Is this $28 million? Am I getting these numbers wrong? Oh, wow. No, shoot, you guys, I'm getting these numbers wrong. Wow. Okay, so back that up. Sorry. This is live, and this is the first time I'm reading through these documents. The settlement that he told the client the settlement was for 7.2 million, and the settlement was actually 53 million. So he won $53 million for the client. That's why it didn't make sense. It was 53,000. This was my fuck up, guys. Sorry. So the settlement was actually 53 million, and he told them that it was only 7.2 million and that they would be getting annual chunks every year. Okay, on or about January 24th, 2013, over half of the client one's settlement, namely the 28 million, was wired to the Torrey Pines IOTA account. Defendants Girardi and Kamon were provided notice of the incoming wire that same day. Defendants Girardi and Kamon then misappropriated and embezzled a portion of the client's settlement funds and caused those funds to be used to pay other expenses and liabilities of Girardi Keese unrelated to client one, including payments to other Girardi Keese clients whose own settlement funds had previously been misappropriated by defendants Girardi and Kamon and others. In order to lull client one and prevent client one from discovering that the defendants Girardi and Kamon had embezzled client one's settlement funds, defendants Girardi and Kamon, aiding and abetting each other, committed and caused to be committed the following acts, among others: falsely informing client one that client one settlement money should be tax-free, and that the delays in payment of settlement funds to client one were due to defendant Girardi's efforts to remove any tax liability for client one, when, as defendant Girardi then knew, client one's settlement money was not taxable. So it was non-taxable money, yet Girardi and Kamon were saying, hold on, we're going to hold on to these funds to make sure you have no tax liability, when there was never any tax liability for them to begin with. Two, falsely informing client one that client one's settlement funds had been transferred into a separate interest-bearing account, when in fact no such transfers had been made and no such interest-bearing account containing client one settlements ever existed. Yikes. Falsely informing client one that client one's settlement funds were locked up for a 6-month period due to their deposit into separate interest-bearing accounts, when no such separate interest-bearing account existed. 4, sending and causing to be sent lulling payments to client one as purported interest payments deriving from the supposed separate interest-bearing accounts. Sending and causing to be sent letters to client one, falsely claiming that we worked magic so far in getting these huge interest rates and getting the first 2 years tax-free. So bullshitting the clients, basically. Sending letters, sending early checks. So it looks like they were paying them in little increments. Yeah. Basically bamboozling their clients. And then it goes on to explain client 2, 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, that's just a piece of what they were actually doing and how they were misleading people. I think this will go on any facility. Has Erika been indicted? Erika has not been indicted. Erika's done nothing. They haven't found anything on Erika. They hired Ronald Richards to specifically investigate Erika Jayne, and he came up with nothing. What's up with Erika? That's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to know what's up with Erika. Literally nothing. They have nothing on her. That's why she hasn't been charged with anything. If anything, the only thing that's really going to come hard at her are the taxes, because the taxes were not great. Just arriving. Hi, Zach. Are you reading the indictment? Yes, I was reading pieces of the Los Angeles indictment. There's also the Chicago indictment, because Tom and the CFO Christopher Kamon were indicted both in LA and in Chicago. And then Tom Kamon and Tom's son-in-law, David Lira, who's an attorney at Girardi Keese, the 3 of them were indicted in Chicago. So 2 indictments, both announced today. Leave my girl Erika alone. Yeah, Cindy, here's the thing. Everyone keeps wanting Erika to be guilty of something, and the more we dive into this, the less and less guilt we find with Erika. She's going to be the bravo, bravo, bravo this season. I mean, I think this is actually going to be a redemption year on Beverly Hills for Erika. Let's see. Crystal's mind says she is indicted. Yeah, in Crystal's mind, but what does Crystal know? Crystal hasn't even read the court documents. It's so funny because I see a lot of these Bravo accounts as all of this is breaking, right? Like here I am. We're going through the Law 360 article. I'm telling you what's been reported. We're going through the actual indictment court filings, right? And yet we have all these other Bravo accounts that took a screenshot of a headline and they're posting that on Instagram. And I'm just like, how original. Why don't you actually try reporting? Do something interesting. Sorry, that was a little shade just because it's like, you know, I shouldn't throw shade, but I'm a shady bitch. What can I say? Okay. What else are you guys saying? So, how's this old man going to prison, or is it a posh old people's home? We don't know where he's going to prison, and we also don't know. Like, all of this is still very preliminary, right? We now have to have a hearing. At the hearing, Tom, Kamon, and Lira they've only been indicted, right? So think of it as Jen Shaw on the Sprinter van. Remember when the feds came to arrest her and she fled? And then they took her in, and then she had to have a sentencing day where she said, Judge, I'm not guilty. And then we had to wait a certain number of months, and she said I was going to go to trial. And then the trial came, and right before the trial, she changed her plea from not guilty to guilty. So this is basically the process that's now going to have to come forth with Tom, Kamon, and Lira. They have a hearing that will be later this month. That's where the feds said that they expressed interest in wanting to arrest Tom Girardi. Unclear if they'll be able to do that. The courts will have to make a decision on as to whether or not they can arrest Tom at that time, because he has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he has been diagnosed with dementia, and he is currently under conservatorship. So he is currently in an assisted care facility. The conservatorship is overseen by his brother. So I'm pretty sure his brother's going to fight the arrest as hard as he can and say, we don't have a facility that can assist Tom Girardi. We don't have, the proper care for Tom Girardi. There may be some wiggle room that they get away from. So it's possible that Tom might not be arrested right away. But if a judge says, hey, I'm pretty sure the feds will come to the hearing and say, we already have the perfect facility that can handle an alleged criminal. He hasn't been convicted yet. So the government is clear that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Don't get mad at me for saying that. That's the law. I'm not trying to defend Tom Girardi. I personally, on a personal level, believe he's guilty, or want to believe that he's guilty. However, the way that our judicial system is set up is that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And so now the government will have to actually prove that these crimes were committed by Tom, by Christopher Kamon, and by David Lira. And that's part of the indictment that we were reading through. What they were doing, how they were concealing the money, how they were misleading clients, what they were doing with the money, all of that stuff. Okay. What else? Are you serious that Erika's involved? Erika's, as far as what's been reported and what's been investigated and what indictments have come forth, Erika has had no involvement. When the cases are settled by the parties, the check insurer needs to send the total amount paid to the people. These lawyers said what they wanted with no validation. Well, Rita, it looks like what was happening is they were telling the check issuer that the money was going to a client trust account, and then they were telling the client that the money hadn't come in yet, or that it was coming in chunks, or that it was delayed, or whatever the case may be. And so the check issuer was making the money to these trust accounts. However, Tom had access to the trust account. Kamon had access to the trust account. The clients were supposed to have access to the trust account, but they didn't know where the money was or that the money had even come in. So being that Tom and Kamon had access to these trust accounts, they were then taking the money out of the trust account and transferring it into Girardi Keese's operating accounts, and then using that money. Or in some cases, as we saw with the diamond earrings, there was one trust account that had money, the $750,000, that was transferred from the trust account directly to the jeweler. So they were doing all sorts of shady shit. So it's not that the check issuers were even aware of what was going on. I'm pretty sure they believed that the money was going into a trust account. They had no reason to believe that Tom and Kamon would be misappropriating the funds. And they didn't have any direct communication with the clients. Tom and Kamon were acting on behalf of their clients, which is what lawyers do, The feds, of course, will get Tom in prison. They want to. They're trying to. Okay, any other questions, thoughts? Erika is good. I mean, as of now, the only thing that's going to come down on Erika are the taxes. She's probably going to have one hefty, hefty tax bill that she's going to have to pay back. Okay. What else, guys? Any other questions, thoughts, feelings, vibes? I think he will go to an easy facility. I mean, possibly. Yes. Thank you, Aaron D. Guys, hit the like button if you're enjoying this live stream. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns below, and I will address them. I don't think I'll read any more of the indictments. I feel like we got client one's story, and I'm pretty sure 2, 3, 4, and 5 will have very similar stories. So we know the charges. We know what's going to happen next. There's going to be a hearing. We'll see if Tom Girardi pleads guilty or pleads not guilty or pleads whatever. Why did it take so long to get an indictment? How long have they been investigating this? Was this under C? Stacey, I believe the investigation into this started back in 2020 when the House of Cards first started to fall. That's when everybody started looking into everything. That's when Kamon ran. That's when Lira ran. So yeah. Why did it take so long for an indictment? Because they had to do a thorough investigation. They had to do a forensic accounting of the books. They had to actually look at the internal communications that Tom and his officers were having with clients. So they had to do their due diligence in order for the indictment to come forth. Once they have the actual proof, now they can move forward with the indictment because now they feel confident going into a trial. So Tom, Kamon, and Lira will now have to appear before a judge and let the judge know whether they're innocent or guilty. And if they plead not guilty, then they will end up going to trial. And if they plead guilty, it's very likely that they're going to take a plea deal very similar to Jen Shaw. What about the money in Erika's Florida bank? That's her Florida bank. That's separate. And that's after she left Tom. That was a separate personal bank account that she opened up after filing for divorce, after separating from Tom. So, I mean, again, if anything, that could likely be money that gets garnished by the IRS. We'll have to wait and see. Do you believe Tom will be on appeal for legal reasons? I don't think there is any appeal at this point. I mean, the only thing he can appeal is the sentence that he receives. That's what the Chrisleys were doing. They're currently on appeal. They're on appeal for legal reasons. But they're still in prison right now because the judge did not allow them to stay out while on appeal. The judge is like, no, if you're going to appeal this, you're going to appeal it from prison. So locked their asses up. They're both in federal prison. They are on appeal for legal reasons. We will see where that goes. It is a disgrace that the state bar, who should be protecting the public, was in Tom's pocket. Allegedly, and very possibly, Rita. Yes, those are allegations that has not yet been proven. We do know Tom was making donations to the California State Bar. So, yeah. Great recap. Thanks, Janice. Can you imagine the forensic accounting? I mean, from what we've heard, it's wild. Zach, you're the EST. What is EST? What is the EST? I don't understand what that is. Somebody explain to me what the EST is, please. Bye-bye, Tom. Yes, bye-bye, Tom. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, guys. If you're enjoying the recap, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more updates. I will continue to cover it. Tom Girardi has his upcoming hearing, so we'll see what happens with that. We'll continue to cover it. Greatest, bestest, smartest. Oh, is that what EST stands for? Oh, the EST. You are the EST, the EST, the greatest, bestest, and smartest. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Best, best. Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you, guys. Okay, last questions before we wrap up and dip on out. Anything else you want clarity on? Anything else you are questioning? Any other questions that you have? Did you guys hear on the video that was leaked by Amber Galloway? I believe her name is, and Tom Girardi said, "Don't leave California. We need more people that look like you." I don't know if I have heard that. I do know that there was a voicemail that was leaked, I believe, by Ronald Richards, that was leaked without Amber's consent. I don't know if that's the video that you're referring to. I know that's where Ron and Emily D. Baker had it out because Emily called him out for leaking this voicemail that he did not have permission to leak, and he ultimately ended up taking the voicemail down. Yeah. does Tom, its conservator, needs to be there when indicted, or does he post bond for Tom as the conservator? Tom is expected to appear in court. I would assume that he will be appearing with his conservator, who is his brother. So yeah, the brother is the one that will be speaking on behalf of Tom moving forward. Tom, with what they're claiming, Tom has Alzheimer's and dementia. So I would imagine they're not going to let Tom take the stand. They're not going to let Tom really speak before a judge. I would imagine his brother will be doing all of the talking for him on his behalf. So yeah, the conservator, his brother, will be there and will probably be answering for him because, again, Tom has Alzheimer's and has dementia and he's not in his right mind. So we shall see. No, it's on Google right now. The woman said her computer went dead several days ago after this conversation, and they were able to find this in the files. It was a Zoom call that she had with Tom Girardi recently. Let me Google this. This is something that Amber Galloway had recently. Oh, look at Ronald Richards just tweeted breaking news. Yeah, you're a little behind, honey. Okay. Let's see. Amber Galloway. Tom Girardi. If you have a link or something, post it so we can actually see what this is. I didn't realize this is something that went live today. I'm not seeing this anywhere. Where are you seeing it on Google? Because I'm not necessarily seeing anything immediately pop up. I love this channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. Just okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know what the Zoom call was or where you're seeing this. I just tried to Google it. I'm not able to find anything. But all right, I guess we should wrap. If there's anything that comes up about that, I guess we can definitely get into that further. But all right, guys, thanks so much for joining. If you want to keep up with me personally, you can always follow me at Just Plain Zack, or you can follow the podcast at No Filter with Zack. That is our show account. That's where you will get all of the latest and greatest breaking news. All the hottest tea will be available at No Filter with Zack. But if you want to keep up with me personally, you can find me all over the internet at Just Plain Zack. Just Plain Zack. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. We will be going live for our regular Thursday night live that'll be happening tomorrow night. So if anything new is breaking between now and then, we will cover it tomorrow. Let me know what other burning topics you would like us to cover on the live, and I will talk to you guys all very soon. All right. Well, hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you want to stay up with the latest and greatest reality TBT. We do have a legal deep dive archive playlist on the channel. There we get into all of the Jen Shah stuff. We get into all of the Girardi stuff as it was breaking. We have lots of really great interviews, so you can check out that playlist for more. And yeah, be sure to subscribe and listen to #NoFilter with Zack Peter. New episodes released on the podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all podcast platforms. That's #NoFilter with Zack Peter. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Talk to you soon. Bye.